The first story we have here involves bills granting federal whistleblowers access to courts would close major gap in protections. What's our first story?
So this is actually a good story, and I'm glad that this is happening. It has happened periodically over the last decade. You've seen in the House and the Senate there have been efforts to grant federal whistleblowers an ability to go before the courts and get review from a jury, which is something that they don't have. In fact, you may not realize this, Brian, but since 2002, all private sector whistleblowers really have had an ability to go to our federal courts with their claims of retaliation and pursue some kind of a remedy, whether it is modest or small. And so this has not been available for federal whistleblowers. They've been told that they have to go through something called the Merit Systems Protection Board, which is a quasi-judicial administrative agency that exists in the US government. And in fact, right now, it has no sitting members. It has a backlog of nearly 3,000 complaints that have piled up, and it is doing nothing to deal with whistleblower complaints. And all anybody can do is wait and wait and wait, because they really don't have much of an ability to move on to another venue and get some kind of validation of their claims. And we're talking about something called prohibited personnel practices, which is another way of saying retaliation. So this isn't exactly going to an inspector general with some kind of abuses of power and asking them to validate those concerns, or it's not really going to Congress with some information and saying we need that to be legitimized. What we're saying is people who have spoken up and then experienced retaliation have no means to seek compensation or damages right now because the MSPB is so dysfunctional. And we've got two bills that have been put forward. They have the full backing of a range of the leading whistleblower advocacy groups out there. That includes the National Whistleblower Center, which I spoke to their executive director over the past week. And it includes the Government Accountability Project and Public Citizen and the Project on Government Oversight, national security counselors. Some of these groups you've heard about before because we've referenced some of the reports and work that they do on whistleblowers. And so this is a huge deal. But back in 2012, when they had an opportunity to grant court access to federal whistleblowers, the National Whistleblower Center was working on this. They were raising concerns about the political nature of the MSPB, which we're seeing right now, because it's basically the panel is a political appointees, and you get two from the political party in charge, and then you get one from the party that is not in charge. And right now we have vacancies in a very polarized environment, and it's what the National Whistleblower Center warned about. And then in 2012, when Barack Obama was up for re-election, there was a lot going on that was unfolding with how the Senate and the House was deliberating over what the Whistleblower Enhancement Act was going to be that would expand the national whistleblower protections that existed. And they decided to remove any access to courts. And Barack Obama's White House essentially decided that they weren't going to fight for greater expansions. And so these groups were in a position where they were either going to oppose a rare opportunity to expand some whistleblower laws because it no longer had this in it, or they could take the little bits and pieces that were being given to them. And ultimately, they chose to take the little bits and pieces they were being given and come back later. And coming back later has meant 8 years later. And there's actually no guarantee that these bills will pass. But I promote them in the positive right now because as they are drafted, and they're in two different bills. One's a Congressional Whistleblower Protection Act. The other's an amendment to the Whistleblower Protection Act. And in each cases, these are drawn up in ways that would be really useful for federal whistleblowing.